I do feel like services procurement is the biggest area of opportunity when you look at, okay, am I going to use permanent resource? Am I going to use contingent workforce, or am I going to outsource it under a statement of work? That's the area that's much more of a greenfield opportunity for tech providers like us, staffing providers who are adding that to their portfolio of services within an MSP and being asked to by their end clients, and also for large organizations to just address it as a resource channel. But I think, yeah, contingent workforce is a solved problem to a large extent, whereas it's just much more all over the place currently. So it's a harder problem for companies to address it. They've got to overcome a hurdle of saying, look, this is going to be tricky, but we've got to do it. It's complex, but we have to do it. And I feel like COVID has added a massive amount of impetus to companies finally saying, we've got to sort this out. Firstly, because they need to understand what they're already spending on services, which can be massive, generally 4 times the size of contingent workforce spend, but also where it might need to be a more important avenue for more general delivery of work than maybe it has been in the past. What's been your experiences in kind of looking at how companies are trying to address that?
So I think, so I agree with everything you've said, right? And Joanne, when I look at, some of the potential solutions out there, I think there's a few that I think of. There is a huge one that I talk about for functional alignment. And I think HR and procurement need to get on the same page. And I think there's a huge opportunity there for more alignment there. And I think this notion of, who's managing perm recruitment, who's managing contingent workers, procurement, then managing everything outside of that for statement of work. I think there's a huge opportunity there for better functional alignment. And I think for me, that sits at the heart of this. And when you really start thinking about, you talked about this being 4 times the size, it is huge. It's humongous. And organizations that are on that journey are definitely seeing the functional alignment as a key driver that's going to allow anyone to fix this problem, right? So for me, that's a really big one. Then I think about, what role does procurement play in this? And I think as a part of the solution, procurement has an opportunity to redefine its category verticals. And I think those category verticals served many organizations really well over the last 10 years. But I think this is a perfect point of reflection to say, do our category structures and our operating models reflect what my stakeholder is buying? And is it reflective of the market, right? And the way the market is now laid out. And, we can often talk about the convergence of different suppliers, what suppliers are doing, A, to survive in this world, B, to diversify their portfolios, but also to stay relevant, right? So procurement redefining its category verticals, I think, is a big part of the solution for this. I think the triage and labor classification is another area, which is a potential solution and huge win, right? Being able to really clearly say, this is the entry point for a requester. These are all the different labor classifications, and really help educate the user, because, I'm a really firm believer that everyone wakes up in the morning with positive intent. Of course, you're going to have some stakeholders out there that are trying to swerve the system, if you like. But I think there's a lot of complexity in this that organizations over the years have just missed. Some of it is because there's conflicting policies out there, some because just the processes aren't clear, some of it's the category verticals that I talked about. It's actually quite difficult for a stakeholder to navigate through that, right? So huge opportunity to fix that. Then I think about the supply side of things. And I think, what organizations should be doing is looking at this supply base, really being mindful and respectful about how much expertise sits there, right? Work with your suppliers to collaborate, work with your suppliers to innovate and build solutions that work for your organization. And I think finally on the supply piece, it's probably worth talking about when we're talking about solutions, is ensure that you've got multiple supply channels, right? Think about how the world has developed and move away from just traditional supply. Think about how neurodiversity should play a role in your supply strategies. think about crowdsourcing, think about all of the different platforms. And Johnny, you touched on the fact that, COVID accelerated. I think COVID accelerated all of the points that I've just mentioned about potential solutions. And I think there is a huge appetite now for organizations to align themselves with, whether it's procurement 4.0 or industry 4.0, but this notion of the digital transformation era, now is the perfect time to get on it. And I find there's so many opportunities there, but just hugely excited about how much organizations can do in this space. So for me, I would say functional alignment between HR and procurement, category verticals, be really clear on triage, labor classifications, work with your suppliers to build those solutions where they might not exist, and really think about your supply strategy and how you are going to bring talent into the business, and move away from traditional supply. Think about what else the world is doing.